So we got this performance review of all plates, and now I'm just looking at the note on my iPhone. And I'm working on this with a coworker who's back in the office on his Mac, and he happens to be looking at the same note on his Mac, and he sees that I'm looking at it right now, right, Papa? That's already kind of cool, because now he knows that I'm looking at what he's looking at. And that's kind of interesting, right? Because people love it when they know that whatever they're looking at, the CEO of their company is looking at the same thing. It actually gives them very important information, right? Because it's a good time to kind of talk about it. You know that we're both looking at this thing. It's neat. And of course, he sees that I'm looking at it, and since it's only fair, I see that he's looking at it. And since the meeting is getting closer, I see that a few other people are popping in and starting to look at it as well. And now we all know, we're not really doing anything yet, we're not really talking, it's just that this is a shared node that we all have access to. And I see everyone is in it. And now I kind of already know what other people know. And we can start to talk about it. So let's say I actually want to have a conversation about this node. I just click the new message button over there. And Evernote automatically figures out who I am the most likely to want to talk to about this. Right? This is part of the augmented intelligence team at work. It's not just your contact list, it's saying, well, here's who you probably want to talk to based on past conversations, the subject matter, if there are other people in Evernote business, what they know about, what they're experts in. But it sort of gives you this list of options from everywhere in the universe, not just people you connect to on Evernote, pretty much everywhere, to suggest here's who you might want to talk to. But let's say that the person I want isn't in the list, so I just search for him, and I find Vitaly through LinkedIn, let's say, through our partnership with LinkedIn, and I can just select him and start the chat that way. And now I can just, let me just type message. Just say, you know, here's the note for the meeting, and hit send. And what I've done there, notice, is I've actually sent that note. This is subtle, but it's actually our most requested feature for years, which we've never had before, because it turns out it's enormously difficult to do directly. And we have it now, which is read, write, one-click, single note share, out of Evernote to anyone in the world. So if you're looking at a note, I can push a button, I can type a message or not, and the other person can immediately in real time see that note, edit that note if I've given him those kind of permissions, and now we can collaborate in it as simple as it. So I hit send on this, and Vitaly can write back. We can have a simple conversation, right in the phone, saying don't forget to add a cat drawing. I say thanks. And here's what this looks like to him. Here's what this looks like to Vitaly. So he's in the Mac, and he sees the chats come up this way, and he can add anything he wants. He can add any messages. He can add new notes, documents, notebooks, anything he wants to the thread. All in the client, all without leaving Evernote. But actually, there's something really special right here, which is now when he's looking at his note list, he can actually see how many people are looking at each node and who they are. We call this presence, and it's a really, really elegant feature. It's a way that you can see not just who's looking at the node you're currently looking at, because that's useful, but that's almost like too focused. Because if I'm actually just looking at a node and other people are as well, yeah, it's good to know that, but I probably know that already because you're probably all looking at the same node at the same time for some reason. But it's also not like a list of who's online, because that's actually useless. It doesn't mean anything to be online or offline anymore. You know, everyone's got phones and mobile devices. You're all kind of partially online all the time, and it's way too many people. So it's very nice, but not enough to know who's looking at a single document or note that you're editing, kind of like Google Docs does. And it's way too much and not useful just to see who's online. What this does is it shows you who's looking at the same stuff that you have access to, that you can also just ambiently see each time. So now, from now on, whenever you're looking at a list of notes, or notebooks, or anything else, you will see people that you know that you've given access to the same things when they're looking at it as well, or when they're editing it or making changes. The feeling that we're trying to go from here is we're trying to recreate the feeling of being in a startup. There's something really magical I know many of you have started companies or have been in startups, and Evernote was my third one. And there's something really magical that happens when you're 10 or 20 people, and you're all sitting in the same room, and you're working 20-hour days, and you're all just working on something. And it happens at that stage, which is you get this clarity, you get this perfect situational awareness, where you know what everyone else is working on, because you can kind of see it. And you can sort of see people's monitors, as you're walking around, getting coffee or something, you can walk by someone's desk and you can see what they're working on. And this feeling of knowing what everyone is working on ambiently leads to extreme productivity, hyper-productivity of companies of that size, because you can have lots of conversations at exactly the time when it's most effective and least disruptive to have the conversation. So if I walk by your desk and I see that you're working on the designs for the second version of wobble plates are going to be super important to you in a few minutes. And I see that you're working on the CAD drawing, and I've got something to ask you about this, I can just stop by your desk and be, oh, hey, yeah, that reminds me. Let's do this thing. That's kind of magic, right? Because it's already in your mind as you're working on it, and I happen to want to work on it, and I can sit, and we can have the discussion right there, and we can make a decision, and we don't have to schedule a meeting, and we don't have to wait a week, and we don't have to get anyone involved. We can work really, really quickly. It's that situational awareness of knowing what other people are working on when they're working on the same things that you know about. And as companies get bigger, as you go from 20 people to a few hundred people, and you get multiple offices, and people are working remotely, this doesn't work anymore. It breaks down. And then you might have to schedule meetings, which suck, by the way, and giving each other PowerPoint presentations, which break down at random times. And it becomes a lot less efficient. And what we try to do is to bring you back that feeling, even if you're working with thousands of people, whether they're in your company or not, whether you're using Evernote Business or just Evernote. This is available for everyone. We want to recreate the feeling of being in a small company, knowing instinctively what other people are working on, and being able to right away have conversations about them. This has never been done before. I think this is the way communications should be if you reject the old, archaic, cognitively skeuomorphic metaphors of telephones and typewriters and filing cabinets. When you combine those things and break down the barriers, and you say that your content and your work and your communication all ought to be happening at the same time in the user experience inside of all the apps, I think you get something like this. And it's enormously powerful. I've talked about the old metaphors, and I think perhaps the worst one, the most damaging one, is the metaphor of the inbox. The inbox is a really damaging thing. The inbox, your mail inbox, or your activity stream, really anything, including our own activity stream, any activity stream, any inbox, what is it really? It's really a list of things that you're already behind on, sorted in the wrong order. Not sorted based on what's most important, but sorted based on chronology, which is weird. The human brain doesn't understand chronology very well. At least I don't. Or what's even worse, it's sorted by urgency, based on like how loudly people are yelling. And that's exactly the wrong thing. You start your day, you've got hundreds or thousands of messages, and you don't know what the important ones are, you don't know what the high impact ones are, and you're already behind on all of them. And you're spending the rest of the day catching up. And that's what work is like when you're working in an inbox, when you're working on this list. And it's a totally unnecessary and artificial thing because it's a metaphor that's been way overextended. The inbox metaphor made sense when you were talking about physical mail, around the time of the Civil War. That's when it made sense. You would receive 2 or 3 lovely handwritten notes